In this video, we'll review the MDT software of the Bone and Joint Infection Registry. This can be accessed from the homepage of the registry by selecting the green MDT button. As you can see, there are up to 5 different MDT lists that can be organized and run within your trust. This is to support both arthroplasty MDTs, fracture-related infection MDTs, regional meetings, infection meetings. So these can be edited by selecting on the icon and changing the names, and really there to support your trust and the different meetings that you run. Let's go for the infection MDT. We can go to meeting. So from here, you can see that there are 3 lists of patients. We have the pending list, we have the monitoring list, and we have the active list. The pending list is a list of patients who are to be discussed in a future MDT. The monitoring list is a list of patients for whom someone needs to be keeping an eye on them. For example, some patients who are on prolonged courses of antibiotics may need regular blood tests during that course, and it may be the role of a specialist nurse to review those during several time points. And so they can be placed within this monitoring list to allow that process to happen. The active list is a list of patients for whom are to be discussed in the next meeting. Now we can add a new patient to the registry. So if someone presents to the meeting with a new case that they would like to discuss, that is fine, but their basic demographic details do need to be included so that their outcome from the MDT can be recorded and that they can be on the registry. And so that takes you through to the page of the basic demographic information, which must be complete. It must be accurate, as the page is not editable afterwards. So please ensure that that's correct. If we would like to review or add any patients onto the meeting, we can select this box, which provides a list of all patients within your trust who have been included on the registry. And we can then select a number of patients to be added to the pending list. If there is a patient on the list who you would like to refer within your regional network to another trust, then that can be done here. A check mark is selected next to the patient, refer the patient to another trust, and use the free text box to identify the trust whom you would like to refer to and confirm. The patient is now visible on that trust's MDT pending list. Now, obviously, for this to occur, both trusts need to be registered with the Bone and Joint Infection Registry, and we also do recommend email or telephone discussion so that the trust understand why that patient has now appeared for discussion within their meeting. But what that does ensure is that the patient's record is accessible to both your own trust and the trust that you have referred to. Both trusts can edit the record. The patient can be discussed in an MDT, and the outcome can be recorded on that patient's record, and the outcome can be visible by both trusts as soon as that is finalized. So a really fantastic method of supporting regional working. So let's start our meeting. We can drag and drop a number of patients who we would like to discuss in the next meeting into the box, into the active list here. Now there is a summary checkbox, and that is because if a patient has not previously been discussed in an MDT meeting, then there is no summary of information for that patient to be circulated prior to the meeting. And so we can say that this patient is a new presentation of chronic left hip PJI, and any reasoning about why they're to be discussed at this meeting can be added to the summary. Same for any of the other patients. So this patient has been discussed. Stop antibiotics ? So the summary can be updated here, and a preview of the next MDT list can be downloaded and printed or circulated electronically to all members of the MDT prior to the meeting, so that everyone knows what the agenda is for the meeting, why those patients are there, and can prepare appropriately. Once we're happy, we can start our meeting. The first thing to do is to confirm which clinicians are present for the meeting. If there is a new clinician, then they can be added by using the details here, their specialty grade and optional GMC number. We do suggest that any clinicians who regularly attend the MDT should have a BAJIR account, so that their names are included upon this list and they can be selected. If they're not, as shown, they can be added as free text, but this is perhaps not something you would like to do every week. So if they do have a BAJIR account, even if they don't access it regularly, then their attendance can be confirmed and recorded on an audit log for their appraisal. So all members regularly there should have a BAJIR account. Confirm. So we have our 3 patients. We can change the order if we, we can't, because these patients' records have been accessed. If they haven't, you can change the order of the MDT. These patients have turned green because we accessed the patient summary and inserted some information. So a green record is a record that has been accessed. If we want to add any more patients, then we can use that box there. But when we're ready to start the MDT, we can begin. So again, we have a list of clinicians. If someone has left the room during the MDT and they're not present for that patient, they can be deselected or selected if they have arrived, to keep it contemporaneous. And then we can go through to the patient's MDT. So all of this information has been pulled through from the BAJIR registry. So Mr. Smith has a left hip PJI. It's a confirmed infection, so he meets the diagnostic criteria. The microorganisms are included, any comorbidities are present, and any comorbidity data, and the current duration of antibiotics that the patient is receiving is present here. If there are any inaccuracies to this, then we can say, actually, this patient also is diabetic on oral therapy. We can go back to the MDT, and this is updated contemporaneously. So we know that this patient has had a single stage revision on the 9th of September. So the surgical data is also included. And we have a free text box for anything that is discussed during this meeting. So continue antibiotics, discuss in 4 weeks. So a summary can be included, and once the patient has been concluded, the patient must receive an outcome. So either the patient is not discussed and they can either be removed from the list or remain there for the next list, or they have been discussed in the MDT. We want to discuss this patient again in 4 weeks, so we will leave them on the pending MDT list. or we can also select whether to remove them from the list or whether they remain on our monitoring list. Once we have finished, we go back to our MDT meeting. The record is green, but there is also now an outcome. So this patient is complete. And the process is continued for each patient. Clinicians have returned. We go through to the patient's MDT, and again, the record is here. So it's a left hip PJI with CNS and strep. They're on RIF and TIKE for 14 days. The patient's summary has been concluded. Stop antibiotics. They had a first stage exchange in October. List for the second stage revision. The outcome can be updated in the free text box, and then an outcome given. They're going to be listed for surgery. We don't need to discuss them again until they've had that surgery. They can be removed from the MDT list. So again, record's gone green. The patient has an outcome. We go through to the next patient. Clinicians present. Go through to the MDT. So there's some incomplete data. So the diagnosis is incomplete. We can go and update any information that might be required. Go back to the MDT. Again, comorbidity data, allergy data, any changes that need to be made can be done. So here, this patient had a DARE of their fracture-related infection. Stop antibiotics. Review in clinic 4 weeks. The discussion can be updated, and we can again remove the patient from the MDT list in their outcome and go back to the meeting. So we've completed our meeting. All patients have been discussed, and importantly, all patients have received an outcome. And once all patients have received an outcome, we then have the option to finalize the meeting, which we can do. So this takes us through the audit log of all meetings, all MDT meetings that have been discussed and finalized. We can go through to a summary of that meeting, which shows which patients have been discussed and their outcomes. We can view their outcomes here. We can also print the finalized MDT. So this downloads a report of that patient's MDT, which can be printed and uploaded in their clinical notes or uploaded onto their electronic patient record. So the summary gives the date of the meeting, the patient, who was present, their diagnosis, their microorganisms, the surgery that they have received, what antibiotics they are on, and the MDT discussion and outcome. So a fantastic contemporaneous report of that meeting for each patient on a single page, to be uploaded in the patient's notes, to be circulated around the attendees of the meeting. And also, if referrals have come from a different trust, a great way of sharing information back to the referring trust, so that they know what's happened to that patient. Okay, let's go back to our meeting. So we feel that this is a really valuable way of running an MDT, of managing regional networks, and provides very accurate, up-to-date audit data to support your meeting. If we go through to the main menu, we can see a dashboard of how our MDT is performing. We select our MDT dashboard for this trust. And so this has really been designed to support the recent published BOAST to support regional revision arthroplasty working. And the information that it provides is the number of patients discussed prior to surgery or within 10 days of surgery, the total number of patients, how many are confirmed infection or suspected infection cases that have been discussed, the specialties of the clinicians present within that meeting. It shows the number of patients discussed by month, and also the quality of the data of this meeting. So whether patients have had the appropriate criteria completed, whether they have blood results and microbiology recorded, and whether that discussion text has been included. So a real valuable way of monitoring your MDT, the quality of your MDT, with clear audit standards that you can compare against, as provided by the revision arthroplasty boasts. So that concludes the video for the MDT software. I hope you find it useful, and please use the MDT, and I hope it will support your MDT process. Thank you very much.